No one ever expects their own children to hurt them, to give them the gift of life, and in return, gain innumerable strife. The path already set, all ignoring a very real threat. The places I've been, the things I've seen, an entire generation left to die, all in the pursuit of that wretched AI.
Today I'm going to talk about a topic that many will dismiss as a bit of a joke, but make no mistake, is no laughing matter.
There are many things that separate monkey from man, but none of them is more apparent than our unique desire to create art. Whether visual art, such as paintings, or audio art, such as music, we humans seem to have a knack not just for creating that of which we need to survive, but to also make such innately beautiful. We go out of our way to pick out unique clothes to fit us, and to decorate our nests just the way we like them. We even make a visual spectacle out of that of which we consume, such as food and even drinks. No other animal has such a similar innate obsession with the needlessly cosmetic than we do.
And to confirm our obsession with art, I asked you all a very simple question.
Is art valuable to you? 92% of people chose yes, with just 8% choosing no. Our most uneven poll thus far.
To absolutely no one's surprise, of course.
After all, trying to find an actual human being who doesn't appreciate art, at least to some extent, is a borderline impossible task, as everyone does, really. Yet whether we are like this because of our much higher intelligence, or perhaps something more, is, as of right now however, a mystery.
I like to think of myself as a pretty artistic guy.
I can make some banging tunes, I'm a pretty good writer, and I like to think I can edit productions quite well.
But if there's one thing I can't for the life of me do, it's draw.
If you know me, then you know that I am a notoriously terrible artist, and after over 20 years on this earth, I've come to the conclusion that that's just something that's never going to change. I look at how other people can craft these unbelievably beautiful vistas, and I'm just in awe. Meanwhile, I struggle to even draw a stick man.
Not being able to draw properly has proven to be a real pain in my ass.
As whenever I want something custom made, I always have to reach out to third parties to make it for me. I think people often forget that art takes both time and effort, and as such, artists logically expect to be reasonably compensated for such time and effort. But if I was to shell out fat stacks of cash every time I wanted something made, I'd be bankrupt within a week. Thus, I often find myself just reusing old assets over and over again instead.
Sometimes my lack of art talent has even crippled certain projects completely.
I had an idea a few years back for a small little indie game I wanted to make. I could write it, I could even program it, but getting an artist to make every single little sprite that I desired, on demand no less, was just simply an impossible ask.
And so, when it comes to the realm of art, I've always just thought that I'm out of luck. Until now.
AI, short for artificial intelligence, is the idea that a computer can exhibit a form of intellect of its own, independent to that of the natural intelligence that we human beings have biologically. It's becoming clear that the 2020s, as a decade, will be pivotal when it comes to AI. Both funding and interest in the field are all higher than ever before, and this is resulting in major technological breakthroughs that were previously thought unthinkable, even just a few years prior. Major technological breakthroughs that will significantly affect every single human being on our Earth. It kind of goes without saying that the internet completely transformed mankind, for better or worse. Improving our lives in many ways, but at the same time also conjuring a plethora of new problems as a result. I strongly believe that artificial intelligence will have a similar effect, having as much of an impact throughout the 2020s and beyond, just as the internet did throughout the 1990s and beyond. You see, before the 2020s, the primary role of AI was to help us achieve our goals as an assistant. But ever since the 2020s, the primary role of AI has slowly started to change, from assisting mankind into replacing mankind. But how, I hear you ask? And what does this have to do with art? A couple of months ago, I started seeing these memes pop up out of nowhere. Apparently, there was a website that you could visit where you could type anything into it, and an AI known as DALLE would generate unique images based on what it was you typed. I came across this forum where people posted some of their generations, and what I saw was truly, well, take a look for yourself. Jesus' crucifixion as a Fortnite event. Funeral at Whole Foods. Hippopotamus walking inside Walmart. Trump as an anime villain. Steve Irwin with Angel Halo riding a stingray to heaven in the clouds. I mean, this was just crazy. So naturally, I just had to give it a go myself, as myself. Of course, if I just typed in Alex Hexagon, it wouldn't have a clue who I was, so instead, I described myself. White man with long brown hair and a mustache in a black suit with a golden hexagon lapel, giving a speech in front of a podium to a crowd. Wow. It gave me exactly what I asked for. It's pretty incredible how the AI was able to generate this series of images in just around a minute or so. However, you also quickly realise that it's just a bit of a gimmick. As though they may look incredibly impressive from afar, when inspected up close, yeah. The faces all look like something out of a creepy pasta. I can't tell if this is some sort of artificial security feature, as in it's been purposely made like that as to prevent people from generating realistic looking images. I'm leaning on that it isn't, however, mostly because it's often not just the faces that get messed up at times. I mean, what is going on with my arm here?
Well, the whole program is nonsensical.
The resolution of the images are also so piss poor that you couldn't really do anything with them anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's impressive, just kind of useless. So after making some more bizarre creations, I quickly got bored of it and simply moved on. But the story doesn't end there, because I later found out that DALLE had a sequel, DALLE 2, and this version wasn't messing around. I came across another forum where people posted their DALLE 2 generations, and with these, I genuinely could not believe my eyes. Mario finds a mushroom. Cat building a sandcastle. A burger in the shape of a Rubik's Cube. A Roman sculpture eating a burger. The average Reddit mod. Not only were these generations more lifelike than the previous version, but some seemed even indistinguishable from reality. To be honest with you, at first I didn't believe it was real, as if it was some sort of elaborate troll or inside joke. I mean, could these have really been generated by an AI? Needless to say, I wanted to find out. Unfortunately for me, however, unlike the last version, this one wasn't yet open to the public. Instead, I was told that I had to fill in a form and join a waitlist. And so that's exactly what I did. Oh, well, no worries. I'm sure they'll invite us. Guess we'll just have to get back later.
Later.
No invite yet. Just, give it a few moments.
A few moments later.
Well, look, to be fair, I can't really complain, as I was warned that this may take several months.
Several months later.
Oh, forget about it. I'm never gonna get in this damn... Yeah, it only took a few months, but after a while, what do you know, I finally got in. First thing they did is ask me for my phone number, which I absolutely hate giving away to companies, mostly because whenever I do, I end up getting text messages at 5 o'clock in the morning trying to sell me car insurance. But nevertheless, for this, it's worth the risk. Alright, and we're in. Apparently we get 50 free generations to start with, alongside an extra 15 per month, and if we want more, we can just buy more credits.
I can't exactly say I'm a fan of this business model.
Surely a subscription service would have been better, as the AI isn't always going to generate exactly what you want, and if you're essentially paying per generation, well, it's almost like a form of gambling in a way.
Nevertheless, being a cheap bastard, I have no intention to pay anyway, so...
Okay, so I guess this is it. We can just type in whatever we want, and the AI should make it.
Being a massive narcissist, I am of course going to start with the same thing I did last time. Me!
White man with long brown hair and a mustache in a black suit with a gold hexagon lapel, giving a speech in front of a podium to a crowd.
Ooh!
To say I'm impressed would be an understatement. The AI has clearly tried its best to replicate my request, but the longer you look at it, the more flaws you can spot. The face, for example, though certainly more realistic than anything DALLE 1 came out with, has some very deformed eyes that just don't quite look right. The hexagon lapel is also, well, not a hexagon. The podium has seemingly been stuffed with liquid gold for some reason. And there's a random floating honeycomb pattern next to me, which actually looks pretty badass. It's very bloody impressive overall, I have to say. But it's also just not quite right.
Let's see the other variations.
Okay, this one is a lot plainer upon first glance. Apart from the usual deformed face, it kinda just looks like a stereotypical priest giving some sort of sermon in a church. But if you look carefully, specifically in the bottom left corner, you'll see what looks to be the crowd that I requested. Pretty ominous looking, honestly.
It's quite interesting to see how the AI tries to juggle all my numerous different requests at once.
This variation is pretty much the same thing, just from a more frontal angle, and it really just goes to show DALLE's ultimate weakness. Eyes. I mean, if you were to just cover up the eyes, you could probably fool most people into thinking that this was a real photo. But as soon as they're shown, no chance.
Perhaps eyes truly are the window to the soul.
As for this last variation, I don't even know where to begin. Whereas the others were more photorealistic, it seems to have given me a sort of cartoon this time instead.
The only problem is, it's a pretty crap cartoon.
It looks like that Spoderman meme from back in 2012, if anyone remembers that.
Hello, I'm Alex Hexagon.
I mean, Jesus Christ. And what is that unusual symbol on the podium there? Kinda looks like a UFO stabbing an intestine. Yeah, not exactly something that I'd put up on my wall, let's put it that way. The AI is reminding me that longer, more specific descriptions tend to work best. I mean, I thought that was a pretty specific description, honestly.
But alright, DALLE, I'll be even more specific.
8K photorealistic photo of a white man with long brown hair and a mustache, wearing a black suit with a golden hexagon on it, giving a speech in front of a black and gold podium with a black background with golden hexagons on it.
Oh my god.
Despite the extra details provided, this actually seems like a lower quality generation than last time. Again, what is going on with these faces? And where's the podium?
The other variations aren't much better either.
This guy looks like he's about to bust out the best love song of all time on Eurovision. This guy looks like he's a Lazy Town villain. And this guy, well, I don't even know what's going on with this guy. Got to give him some credit though, that is a pimpin' podium. Damn.
Speaking of pimpin' podiums, I've been using this plain wooden one for months now. I wonder if DALLE can generate me a more stylish one.
A black podium with a gold hexagon on the front and a microphone on top of it.
Wasn't exactly what I was looking for?
Okay, it seems the AI has got confused. Rather than giving me a podium with a golden hexagon on it and a microphone on top of it, it's just giving me a podium with a golden hexagon microphone on top of it. Except this last variation, which, though wasn't exactly what I was looking for, I could probably edit it and make it work.
Let's see here. Not bad, huh?
Speaking of hexagons, at the start and end of every production of mine, I like to have a unique hexagon appear to set the scene. Only problem is, however, I'm kind of running out of designs.
Perhaps DALLE can help me out with some. Let's see.
8K ultra-realistic giant golden metal hexagon on a black background.
Hey, that's not bad.
The hexagon itself looks really good, very realistic and highly detailed. Not quite sure what the HBK text in the middle is all about. I imagine it's because I put 8K in the prompt and perhaps it thinks I want that text in it or something like that. Either way, it's not hard to crop out, and when done, damn, that looks good. I am definitely going to use this at some point. What I'm not going to use, however, is this one. Yeah, this is just awful in pretty much every way imaginable. It's uneven, it's the wrong side, it cuts off, it even has more unnecessary text. Just simply awful. Hard pass, thank you very much. This one looks really good, very professional looking. I like how it didn't just give me a plain hexagon, but created this divided style instead. Again, I will definitely use this at some point in the future. Now this one is a mixed bag, because on the one hand, it's given me 2 hexagons, the larger of which is pointlessly cut off for no reason. However, it kind of makes up for it, because the smaller one looks really realistic. I'm probably going to use this for the intro of this production actually, as I find it bizarrely impressive. You can probably see now how DALLE can be very useful to folks like me, who are useless at making our own art. But speaking of art, we haven't actually requested any yet. By default, DALLE will assume you want a photorealistic image, but if you add digital art to the start of the prompt, then it will instead give you just that. What should I make art of? How about me again? Digital art of a white man with long brown hair and a mustache wearing a black suit with a golden hexagon lapel who is sat down while wired up to a futuristic looking computer, wearing goggles with green lines of code in them with a black and gold wall in the background. Hey, that's not bad. It didn't quite understand what I meant by wired up to a futuristic computer or green lines of code in the goggles, but I still find it impressive nevertheless. This one kind of looks like Jack Dorsey, going for the whole hipster look it seems. Okay, this one is just awful. It looks like something a child has drawn in Microsoft Paint to impress their mum. Yeah, not what I was looking for. This one is really interesting, because though the background may as well not be there, the person himself looks really well made. I'm probably going to use that as well at some point, honestly. Pretty cool. I want to make a really dramatic intro for this production. You know, something like, we made AI and now we're paying the price. Something like that. So I wonder what it would do if I requested something really cryptic. Digital art of angels and demons facing each other in the cosmos while Earth lingers in peril in the background. Wow. I mean, these just look stunning. The detail in the skies and the planets, they look hand-drawn. The angels and demons don't exactly look great, but the backgrounds are incredible. This last variation really stands out to me for some reason. It's just hard to believe a computer made this, as it looks quite emotional. Simply fascinating. And a bit scary. This has got me thinking. If it's able to come out with something as detailed and advanced as this, then it's got to be able to do 2D pixel art sprites, right? Pixel art NPC sprite set for a 2D game. Okay, maybe not. I mean, it technically gave me what I asked for, but it's also just not right. Not right at all. All of the sprites are either cut off or deformed in some way, having freakishly long legs, or, well, I don't even know what's going on with this guy. Though to be fair, with pixel art sprites, they're never actually meant to be seen this up close. If you zoom out a bit with them, they actually don't look that bad. In fact, dare I say, they actually look pretty damn good. Even an amateur like me could probably spend a few minutes touching them up in Microsoft Paint, and they'd probably be quite usable. Was all me. Alright, these generations have all been quite impressive in their own ways, and while we've certainly tested the artificial nature of AI, I also want to be sure to test the intelligence part of it too. All my requests thus far have been extremely specific and detailed, but what would happen if I made an intentionally vague request that required the AI to really think and conjure up something of its own volition? Well, let's find out. One of the most popular video game consoles of all time is the Sony PlayStation. As of the time of recording, in 2022, the latest PlayStation to be released is the PlayStation 5. So I wonder, what would happen if we asked the AI to show us a glimpse into the future? PlayStation 6. Well, there you have it, folks. The future of gaming. Yeah, it looks like it just took every PlayStation that has ever been released and just tried to merge them all together to create whatever this is meant to be. And here is an up close of the truly astoundingly ergonomic controller that kind of looks like it's from one of those cheap clone consoles that you'd buy on eBay in the mid-2000s. And here we have a delightful lady showing us the masterful design of said controller. Why she's holding it backwards, mind you, I have no explanation. Though considering the last variation is also seemingly holding it the exact same way, maybe this controller is simply so advanced that it's beyond our mortal understanding. Something I find interesting about these last two generations is that they're so extremely similar. A woman wearing this unusual collared shirt, holding a controller backwards. I can't quite fathom how two variations could be so similar given such a vague prompt. Perhaps some hard-coded bias? Would not surprise me when it comes to tech toys. Let's try something a little bit more poetic. The future of mankind. Wow, what a remarkably profound generation. I mean, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but it's a pretty interesting vista regardless. No one would ever think that this was made by a computer. On the contrary, however, parasane permission. The future of mankind, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think there's anything that summarises the unpredictability of DALLE than looking at both of these side by side. On the one hand, you have this deep, ominous piece of art, and then you've got this. This variation looks like something you'd see above a boring mainstream media article about inflation. This one is actually pretty cool though. Earth with two people giving what looks like a thumbs up to each other. Ah, world peace. One day. Overall, the AI clearly has a long way to go in terms of actual intelligent creativity, but the fact it's even capable of coming out with what it did is quite mind-blowing in of itself. Before making this, I asked you all if you had any specific generation requests yourself. Lee Monkey requested Hat Man in the Shadow Realm surrounded by spiders. Don't ask me. Well, you got a Hat Man in the Shadow Realm, but I don't know about you, but they don't exactly look like spiders to me. Come on, DALLE, you can do better than that. Okay, this looks a little better. This one kinda looks like an album cover. Hardly realistic though, is it? Oh, okay, I changed my mind. Get it off! Get it off! Ghost requested a frog playing World of Warcraft on a notebook rolls a 1 on the dropped Warglaive of Azeroth and pushes the Alt key with his left hand and the F4 key with his tongue. Yeah, there's no way it's gonna generate that. Yeah, as expected, it kind of gave you something resembling what you asked. Not quite sure how he's playing on a notebook that doesn't have a screen. Damn, this one is actually not bad. Kind of looks like video game concept art. Okay, not quite sure why this frog has a pair of breasts, mind you, but some questions are probably better left unanswered. Freaks requested a monk, a gamer, and a handball player with a leek in his hand are carrying a table with an old television on it from one room to another through a very small bathroom that connects to both of the rooms, but the cables from the television are stuck in the room they came from, so they can't go any further. Not asking for much, are you? Okay, considering the complexity of the prompt, these generations really aren't as bad as I thought they would be. You can see the AI is trying to generate text here, which for some reason it is notoriously terrible at. This one kind of looks like a WikiHow support picture. If you know, you know. Overall, I'd say DALLE's image generations based on prompts are quite a mixed bag. It can generate some really stellar looking imagery when it wants to. However, it can also generate some absolute garbage. But generating images based on text prompts isn't all that DALLE can do. Apparently, you can also upload an image to DALLE and it will generate other variations of that image. So again, being the narcissist I am, I was curious what would happen if I gave it a picture of myself. To test this, I just took this very typical photograph of yours truly, or as some ogres like to call it, a self-E, which I will use to feed DALLE. But will it truly be able to replicate me and conjure extremely photorealistic images of alternative universe versions of myself that don't even exist?
I can barely contain my excitement. Let's try it.
Uploads with realistic faces are not allowed at this time. See our content policy.
Oh.
Indeed. Apparently DALLE has been hard-coded to reject making variations of realistic faces so that it can't be used to manufacture false versions of people without their consent. But considering Photoshop can already do this anyway, it's kind of a redundant restriction, really.
Naturally, I was not very pleased with this, so I conjured a cheeky plan.
Okay, so realistic faces are not allowed, but what if my face wasn't the main focus of the image? I decided to take another photo of myself, but this time with me just being a part of it, unfocused and off-center. Not quite sure why I look like I'm about to sign someone's death warrant, but either way. My hope was that perhaps by just being a part of a greater image, that it would somehow be allowed. But nope. Even with my crafty tricks, the AI just wasn't having any of it.
Again, as you can imagine, I wasn't very pleased with this, and so in the end, I just said, balls to it.
What if I just took a photo of myself, but this time covering up my face with one of my hands so that the AI can't tell that it's a face at all?
Well, let's see.
That's right, it worked. The AI created 3 different variations of myself, each one having some of my basic traits, and to say that this is freaky is an understatement. What's even more fascinating to me, apart from the variations of myself of course, is the artificial backgrounds that were generated for them. The unusual level of detail on these curtains, for example, is almost uncanny. Very, very freaky. One can only imagine how much weirder it would have been if full-face photos were allowed. Ugh.
Which gave me an idea.
Okay, so full-face photos for humans may be prohibited, but what about animals? I decided to try to take a few photos of my dog to see if it would work, but because he's a massive pain in the arse, he wouldn't stop being hyperactive and moving around before I could get a good shot. After about 5 years, however, I managed to get this cute little snap of him smiling, which I think would be great to get some variants of.
Let's see what happens.
Ugh. For some reason, the variants have these scary blood-red eyes that make him look like he's just come out of a Resident Evil game. This last one doesn't seem too bad, until you put it side by side with the original. I get the impression that the AI is confused and thinks that the original is actually a painting rather than an actual photo. Well, either that, or it's just trying to freak me out.
Speaking of paintings, I wonder,
if I gave DALLE the painted portrait of myself, would it give me other paintings in return? As it turns out, the answer is yes, though again, there are some clear errors here. Besides the fact they all look like Joseph Stalin, the eyes, once again, are all very deformed. And this one just looks like a woman with a mustache. Still, very impressive all things considered, and to be honest, when put side by side with the original, the generations look even better.
Alright, enough faces. How about we try some places?
The Windows XP Bliss wallpaper is inarguably one of the most well-known photos of all time. Anyone who grew up in the 2000s is almost guaranteed to have seen this many, many times.
And I don't know about you, but I'd like to see some variants.
And that's exactly what we get. A great green hill with a beautiful blue sky. Not quite sure why every one of them has this unusually large shadow near the bottom, but either way, you can easily imagine these being the actual Windows XP wallpaper. Simply brilliant. All this Windows XP talk, however, has made me most nostalgic, as I remember using this OS back in the day to play a ton of games during my childhood.
Which got me thinking, what if I gave it a screenshot from a video game?
Grove Street from Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is inarguably one of the most prolific virtual streets ever made. But would DALLE be able to replicate it and provide me variants for a place that doesn't even exist?
Well, there's only one way to find out.
Out of all the images generated thus far, I find these to be the most interesting, as you can tell that DALLE is aware that this isn't real life nor a painting, but something else. Obviously, they are very broken and don't really make much sense upon further inspection, but at the same time, you can also tell that this is Grove Street. Mostly due to the orange and blue atmospheric colour scheme that's been incorporated very successfully from the original. I also wanted to try out Stormwind City from World of Warcraft, being another very prolific virtual environment. Sadly, however, because World of Warcraft's graphics look very paint-like, it seems that DALLE is trying to instead just make paintings that represent the original instead. Pretty good paintings, mind you, but not quite a replication of video game graphics. Overall, DALLE's image variation conjurations are again quite a mixed bag. While it can often provide you with something relative to the original, there does always seem to be some caveats involved, at least for now. Which brings us on to the final feature of the AI, editing already existing images. As well as making variants of images, DALLE also contains tools to crop out certain parts of an image, whereby you can provide a text-based prompt to fill in the gaps with whatever it was you typed. Naturally, I tried myself again, but despite trying to remove my face and replace it with something else, DALLE was once again having none of it. So rather than battle with the AI for the next 2 hours again, I had a different idea. I took this photo from my bedroom and edited out a large chunk of the bed and asked DALLE to fill it in with, and I quote, an orangutan on the bed. And that's exactly what it gave me. 3 little monkeys lying on my bed. But as jaw-dropping as they may seem upon first glance, if we actually zoom into one, upon further inspection, you can clearly see that it's not actually real, with numerous visual artifacts plaguing the image. But nevertheless, from afar, you could easily fool someone with any of these. To try it out again, I also took this image from my bath, removed another large chunk from it, and asked DALLE to fill it in with, and I quote, red panda in the bath. Just like the orangutans, from afar, you could definitely fool someone with them. But the illusion quickly breaks upon zooming in with yet more visual distortions. As a final test, I took the image of my dog from earlier, removed a chunk from the back, and told DALLE to put a, and I quote, brown and white Shih Tzu smiling, with the hopes that the AI would be able to give him a friend. Unfortunately, however, it seems he is cursed to loneliness forever, as rather than give me another dog, it just kept editing my carpet to have numerous different textures instead. Sorry, pal. Overall, DALLE's image filling in feature is certainly in its most primitive stages of development. I take these generations less as a final product and more of a snapshot into what the future could hold. Which brings us on to why I'm even talking about this in the first place. The future. My home of the north of England was the first place in the entire world to undergo a process known as industrialisation, whereby rather than relying on human labour, machines could be used to substitute and even improve said labour. Though industrialisation would rapidly catapult the UK into becoming a global trading behemoth, one obvious issue with the process was that many people now suddenly found themselves unemployed due to being replaced by said machines. A group of textile workers, known as the Luddites, would band together and actively attempt to destroy such machinery in protest against them, an act of rebellion known as machine breaking. Needless to say, the Luddites were quickly quashed by the state, passing legislation against such acts and having soldiers move in to deal with them. Such quashing would be heavily approved by the British upper classes, who saw the group as ultimately bad for business. The overall point of this story is to demonstrate that not only is technological innovation inevitable, but that when achieved will be quickly adopted, even at the cost of those to whom dedicated their lives to such crafts. After all, why would I bother looking for an artist, paying them money, and then patiently waiting for them to create what I asked, a process that could stretch multiple days, when I can instead just feed an AI a prompt and have 4 different variations of what I requested in just under 20 seconds. The answer, of course, is that such AI, as we've seen today, is incredibly flawed, often not producing exactly what it is you had in mind, nor providing the accuracy that an actual human being could. But that's the situation today, not tomorrow. The difference between DALLE 1 and DALLE 2 was just around 5 years. Imagine then what a massive improvement that DALLE 3, or the plethora of other AI options, will provide 10, 20, 30 years from now. If what you've seen today has impressed you at all, know that you are merely looking at a primitive developing technology, like comparing a computer of the 1950s to a smartphone of today. This isn't the end game of AI, not at all, but merely its genesis. And it's not just art that will be affected, but music too. OpenAI, the creators behind DALLE, also have an audio-based AI called Jukebox, whereby you can feed it a few seconds of an actual song, and the AI will try its best to continue it. They might even put me out of a job. No, but really, think about it. I have many hours worth of productions out there online. How difficult would it really be, in a few years' time, for an AI to scan all of my productions and analyse my voice, face, clothes, expressions and beliefs, and create an artificial production that both looks like me and sounds like me, but isn't actually me?
Hey guys, Alex here. Just wanted to let you know how much I love neoliberalism. I adore the European Union, I adore corporate monopolies, and most of all, I adore London.
That scares the hell out of me. And what about video games? Indeed, being the ultimate form of art, they would be by far the most difficult to pull off due to their interactive nature. But I think people forget that in the space of 25 years, video games have gone from looking like this to looking like this. At the rate of our current technological advancement, by the end of this century, we may even be able to generate high-quality video games that right now take years and huge amounts of highly intelligent manpower to make in just a matter of seconds. Whether it's art, music, videos, or video games, the trend that AI creates is one and the same, making the creation of what once required huge amounts of time, skill, and dedication open to everyone, even those with none of those traits. And while that may sound great upon first hearing, there's a reason that gold is valuable, yet plastic is not. Because gold is rare, whereas plastic is common. When even a child would be able to create masterpieces on a whim, the value and appreciation of art will perish forever. And everything I've talked about here is just servile AI. I haven't even mentioned sentient AI, as that deserves its own episode. Overall, if there's one point I want you to take away from this, it's this. AI doubters and employed creatives, two groups who tend to overlap, often make the counter-argument that there will always be a desire for man-made creations. And while I'm sure that's true, if you think that AI isn't just waiting to devour the creative market space, then you are simply delusional. I believe that just as the Industrial Revolution essentially made many workers redundant, the upcoming artificial intelligence revolution will have a similar effect on not only the creative professions that I have mentioned here today, but many non-creative professions that I haven't. AI will put large swaths of people out of work to be replaced by machines. Then, our out-of-touch neoliberal elite will pretend that it's good. We know this from how they implemented globalization in the 1970s and 80s, whereby they willingly chose to betray their own country's working classes by shipping off manufacturing overseas. They simply don't care. The reason being because the wealthy ultimately won't be affected negatively, as they will only continue to get richer. Meanwhile, the unemployed masses, the modern-day Luddites, will only get poorer. This, as strange as it may sound, is a golden opportunity. The neoliberals may have gotten away with globalization, but that's only because, much like industrialization, it only affected the working classes. AI, on the other hand, will affect everyone, and from such, the winds of change will blow like never before. Nothing gets people questioning their own societal order than when it lets them down, particularly financially. I believe that the upcoming economic crisis that will spawn from AI's creation will only strengthen the gap between the wealthy, out-of-touch neoliberal elite and the masses at large. When this time comes, dear viewer, and your countrymen find themselves distraught, it is up to you to educate them on why this situation happened in the first place. Because their leaders didn't care. The mere fact that I am talking about this, decades before it actually happened, is evidence that the situation was easily predictable and thus preparable. The neoliberals know the damage that AI will cause, yet rather than remake society from scratch, are instead hoping that the creation of bread-scrap welfare schemes, such as universal basic income, alongside an overload of entertainment, will subdue the masses instead. Anything to keep themselves at the top. If you think the mindless consumerism of today is bad, then imagine media that's been specifically generated for the consumer. Much like how the masses became gluttonous with the over-availability of food, we may see a similar situation with entertainment, whereby people find themselves stuck, endlessly and mindlessly consuming soulless algorithmically designed creations to give their existence some meaning. Don't have a partner, they will say. Don't start families, they will say. And don't ask questions, they will say. That's for us, not you. Merely consume products, be a good boy, and allow yourself to slowly lose all willpower to rebel. We must ensure that these distractions fail. The masses must realise how much they've been robbed, that there's a reason why their ancestors lived a more prosperous life than they did, and it's called consolidation. The centralisation of wealth, power and fame in the hands of the few at the cost of the many. Whether or not the masses rise up to the occasion, however, is partly, dear viewer, up to you. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed that. A very serious topic, and I find that not enough people are talking about it. Kind of reminds me of when people talked about the internet in the 1980s, when many dismissed it as a fad. Needless to say, they were very, very quickly proven wrong. AI is much more serious than I think a lot of people give it credit for. I don't know you, I don't know what your profession is. However, after what you've seen today, perhaps you may want to reconsider what line of work that you end up going into before you inevitably get replaced by said machines. Is the future of mankind really for us to rot away in virtual reality pods as our species dies out? I hope not. But nevertheless, as ever, I'd like to give a shout out to the Wall of Famers: Series, My Two Pence, Nemesis 4534, Ardent Word, Craig, Daniel H, Crutonite, Reginald Scar, Scott Brown, Andrew Hamrick, BCI, Philippe M, Roland Manhurt, Scrophilus Rex, Torfik, Madhon, Viriday, Wes FR, Bob Page, King Gold Stang, Denton Cassels, Aleph Ashara, BW Gaming, Drager, Furu the Bat, Matthew E, Soromeister, and Trevor. And on that note, to the Wall of Famers, I have some very, very interesting plans in the making for you guys, so stay tuned. Anyway, I don't know how you guys are, but at the time of recording in the UK, it is absolutely boiling right now. Hot weather like never before, so it's like a sauna in here right now, so I don't know about you, but I'm gonna get the hell out of here and, yeah, have a nice cold drink, because I deserve it. Alright, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.